game at the end of the season would be a prime example. It was 51-43. But the problem here is the St. Ignatius defense is a lot different than the Medina Bees defense. And for me, it's can Solon keep up with whatever that St. Ignatius defense throws at them.
And the flip side of it is Medina has that big backfield that they ran with Whitaker, and you're going to get a pretty big dose of that and add in a really big offensive line. So there are concerns, but I don't see this being the runaway that a lot of people do. I think Solon's one of the better teams in the state.
And Solon has the ability to force turnovers. And if they can figure out that offensive line, get pressure on the quarterback from their linebackers. So Solon has the ability to kind of disrupt what St. Ignatius does. And if you can get them out of that rhythm a little bit, make them do some things that they don't like to do, maybe you can change that game.
Well, as our guys mentioned, Nate and Jeff mentioned, the winner of that game will face the winner of the Stowe-St. Edward game, and we've got a preview of that. Our Ryan Isley previews the Eagles and the Bulldogs. Take it away, Ryan.
Good evening from Twinsburg. I'm Ryan Isley for cleveland.com and Friday Night Huddle. Tonight here at Twinsburg Tiger Stadium, the number 2 St. Edward Eagles will take on the number 3 Stowe Bulldogs in a Division I, Region 1 regional semifinal. It's a rematch of last year's state semifinal that was won by the Eagles 45-7. Both teams coming off impressive victories as St. Edward defeated Euclid 42-7 last week, and Stowe took care of Canton McKinley 35-10, both home games for the two teams. I can tell you right now that the Stowe Bulldogs are taking this game personally. Talking to quarterback Kyle Van Treese last week, they want to prove that they belong on the same field with St. Edward after last year's 45-7 defeat. Both defenses come in giving up very few points, as St. Edward has given up 14 or less 5 of their 10 games, and Stowe has held 8 of their 11 opponents to 14 points or less. We'll have more as the night progresses from here in Twinsburg, so stay tuned to Friday Night Huddle.
And, you know, that's a very valid point. Stowe's thing is Project 17, and that's because they have a lot of seniors that played in that state semifinal game. And quite honestly, they didn't like the way that went. And it kind of went bad from the beginning. Yeah. And again, I think this is going to be another really close game. I really do.
And, you know, that was a game that had a running clock coming out of halftime. It was a really challenging game for Stowe, and they've been building to this for a long time with Kyle Van Treese. Obviously, they lost Jay Gobble. But
now they got Joe
Gobble now.
You got a Gobble in the backfield. Right? You're in good shape in Stowe.
But, you know, they've been building to this, and I thought Ryan pointing out that they want to prove that they belong on the same field as St. Edward. And frankly, you know, this is a different St. Edward team. I think this is a different Stowe team, too. Even though a lot of the talent is the same, I think this is a more mature Stowe team, a team that learned a lot from that run last season. So I am curious to kind of see how this game plays out, really from both sides.
And I think, you know, Mark Norrie's been around the block quite a bit, played in the NFL, coached in the NFL. The message is we're not playing the St. Edward Eagles that are two-time defending state champs. Those guys are in college now. We're playing this St. Ed's team. And that's literally what he has to get across to Stowe. And I think they get that. I really do.
And weren't there 9 of them?
Yeah, that were D1.
That went to Division I from last year, a dramatically different team. I think the other thing that strikes me, just listening to that report we heard, the wind.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you look at last week and St. Ed's was able to beat Euclid. They got 5 touchdowns through the passing game. Obviously, you mentioned Ryan Van Treese, a big part of things. So I think it changes. Perhaps. I mean, I guess we don't know which direction things are blowing or anything like that, just listening to the report. But you got to believe that the running game is going to be much more important this week than maybe it was last week for each of those teams.
Well, Kyle Van Treese is a D1 quarterback, and you know he's got the arm to cut through that. And I mean, they have a very good offense. They're balanced. Anything you could want, you know. They got the big left tackle, Miranda, that's going to Penn State. I mean, he is a man. And they're going to have to – St. Ed's is going to have to account for him. Much like the Eagles had that big offensive line a year ago, it's going to be a very interesting matchup.
And the thing that St. Edward was able to exploit last year was they made Stowe bring pressure with more than 4 guys. And that's something that Stowe was able to do against Canton McKinley last week. Pressure with 4 guys. That frees up those linebackers to force turnovers. go hit people if they want to do that. It allows your secondary to have a little help as well. So, that's always one of the keys with Stowe. Can they create pressure with 4 guys? If they can't, then it starts to expose some other areas of the defense.
You know what? Their defensive backfield is pretty good. They're pretty solid. They played against a very diverse Canton-McKinley team and did really well against them. Well, we've got this game so well covered. Our band reporter, Krista DeFini,
boy.
love Krista DeFini. She has a preview of the St. Edward Eagles band.
Krista DeFini here in Twinsburg, ready to cover the Stowe vs. St. Edwards game. I cannot wait to see the St. Edwards Marching Eagles out on the field and in the stands. They participated in concerts and parades and competitions. They received 2 excellence and 3 superiors, which means they qualified for states. And yes, marching bands can qualify for states. I cannot wait to see their show at halftime. It's called One Giant Leap. They're playing a tune that we all should know. It's from Star Trek. I can't wait to see it. You'll have to stay tuned to find out what song it is.
Krista DeFini, our student band reporter from the Independence Band. Always a little different look with Krista. Love it.
You know that, in the NFL, Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter, they have, their phones are just full of GMs and coaches that they can take. I just wonder if Krista has band directors.
Exactly.
If
She's getting there.
If she's all sourced up just in the band community, because every week it's a new band.
Building the Rolodex. Last week we had her at Cuyahoga Heights, and so this is, 3 schools in 3 weeks, building things up.
As we look at it, another game that kind of grabs the attention, Aurora and Hudson. 2 teams from the Suburban League, different parts of it, so they don't play during the regular season. That's a really interesting matchup. I was really impressed with the Aurora Greenmen. Only lost week 1 to the Solon Comets, have won 10 straight, and they're looking pretty good as well.
They are, and they look awfully good. Hudson has been a good team for a long time. This year, it's a different look. Obviously, Ron Wright is not the head coach, not to say anything, to the coaching sense of things. But it's just like everybody else. Mitch Guadani has moved on, and he was their quarterback for a long time. But there's just, yes, Hudson gave Stowe its only loss of the year, but the way that they lost the 2 games that they did, they were up at home on Canton-McKinley going into the second half and wound up getting blown out. I think it was 51-24. And then later on in the season, they go ahead and play Twinsburg, who is a program on the upswing. Yeah. But it's still a team that you would figure Hudson should beat, and that one was 21-12. So I think when you look at that and then look at what Aurora has been able to do the last 10 weeks, stringing together convincing victory after convincing victory, with Bubba Arslanian in the middle of that, I think there's a lot of question marks for Hudson that they will really need to address so they're going to have a shot against Aurora.
The one thing that impresses me with Hudson, though, is fell down 24-7, 24-7 to Stowe, came back and won 25-4. Fell behind to Copley, came back in the second half and won. That's the sign of a team that really believes in themselves. So I'm sure, in that locker room, they feel like they're every bit, ready to go against Greenman. But Aurora, that's a different kind of animal than what you're used to.
Yeah, and one thing you do know about Hudson, I think this is a good story for them already. Playing 3 quarterbacks, obviously that game against Stowe, but with Jeff Goff, he's going to be aggressive. If you have a chance to win the game, we saw it going back to that Stowe game, he's going to go for 2 and go for the win. He was aggressive against Copley last week. That if you've got a shot, he's not going to leave anything off the table against Aurora. He's going to put everything they have out there. Whatever it takes, trickery, 2-point conversions, Hudson's going to put it all out there tonight against the Greenmen.
Yeah, and that's a game you can catch in about 10 minutes. They'll be kicking that off on Time Warner Cable Sports Channel. They'll have that game live. That'll be a very interesting one. Our Bill Mayville is at that game, and Bill has a preview of Hudson and Aurora. Take it away, Bill.
Hey everyone, Bill Mayville from cleveland.com doing a quick game preview for tonight's Division II Region 5 playoff action between the number 1 seed Aurora Greenmen and the number 5 seed Hudson Explorers. Hudson comes into this game after rallying last week. in a 25-15 deficit, scoring twice in 139 to overcome fifth-seeded Copley, while Aurora comes in after beating Barberton 40-13. Storyline for the game tonight is, can Aurora slow down the three-headed quarterback monster that Hudson employs with Colt Pillay, Parker, and Wallace? And for Hudson, they've got to slow down an offense that's averaging almost 40 points per game for. Last week, Gavin Blunt had a pair of touchdowns, one receiving TD, one kickoff return for a touchdown, and Chris Vanzo had a pair of rushing touchdowns. A couple of good defenses going at it tonight. Aurora is averaging around 16.7 points per game against, while Hudson is averaging 18.7 points per game against. So it should be an interesting game to see who can slow down the other team's offense. Follow us on Twitter for more information, game scores, and updates. Hashtag NEOVarsity, hashtag FN Huddle.
All right, Bill Mayville with a preview. He mentioned Chris Vanzo, it's a 1,000-yard rusher, and then there's Bubba Arslanian, who's opening the holes, and it's kind of interesting. He's the long snapper, and Bob Mahalik told me he's actually the fastest guy on the team. He wants to return kicks, but they have to give him a break. They don't want to put him back there because they want him to get a breather. But think about the athletic ability. He's a linebacker, he's a fullback, he's your long snapper, and oh, by the way, he's the fastest guy on the team.
Yeah, that says a lot. And you wonder, maybe as the playoffs go along, if Aurora's hanging in there, maybe you do sneak him back there to try and return a kick or two.
He was going, hey, Coach, I mean, literally at practice, I want to return kicks, I want to return kicks. And he's like, he kind of looked at me, he goes, see?
Mac Austin's not bad at quarterback either. This is a very complete Aurora team.
Yeah, and Mac Austin's a senior, waited his turn. He's completing 67% of his passes. He's got a 14-to-2 touchdown interception ratio. He's doing everything you want a quarterback to do.
And, Bill Mayville in his report there also mentioned Chris Vanzo with a couple of touchdowns last week, Gavin Blunt, and like you said, Dan, I mean, they are so complete. And it isn't just Bubba Arslanian, and it isn't just Bubba and Mac Austin, the quarterback. There are so many weapons out there, and when you look at that and the number of guys that have had multiple touchdown games for Aurora, you can see how they've really been having their way with everybody for the last 10 weeks.
Well, we talked a little bit about the Division I, Region I games with Solon and St. Ignatius, Stowe, and St. Ed's. Division I, Region II has a couple of Northeast Ohio against Central Ohio guys, and I've been really impressed with the way Medina has played, getting into and then advancing in the playoffs as well.
And last week we maybe not successfully tried to brand this the Olentangy region. I know you have your upside down region because there were 3 schools involved with the name Olentangy. But for Medina, I mean, they started the season with some crazy numbers. I mean, they shut out Lakewood in their first game 55-0. The next week against Kenston, they put up 70 points. I mean, at one point they were outscoring their opponents 200 and something to 30 something. But I really think the concern here is the Medina defense, and we saw that manifest itself against Solon. We saw it last week, even though they were able to come back from behind and win against Toledo Whitmer on the road, which was a very impressive thing to do. They still gave up the points. They won, but it was 38-31. So, it's tough to rely on that offense all the time, no matter how good that is. But if Medina's defense can just step up enough to slow down Liberty, then I think that can be the difference in this game.
And let's take a look at Division I, Region II. That's what we're talking about is Liberty beat Orange. That's a rematch from earlier in the year, and Liberty won 2 close games. Yeah, the one thing about Medina, they played Solon, they played Menor, they lost to both of those teams, but they're not going to see anything that they have. When you've played the Solons and the Menors of the world, there's not much that you're going to get surprised by when you get into this time of year.
Yeah, they didn't just play them, they played them well.
Right.
Too. And against Menor, they had some leads. They had chances to win that game. Same with Solon. I mean, you could probably look at those 2 games and say, Medina should have won those games. They should probably be sitting here at 11-0. But, they're not. But like you said, they learned something in those games. And the key here is make sure you're not chasing, right? Because you know you maybe can't trust your defense to get you too much, but if you can kind of get out ahead, get a couple stops here and there, make sure that Liberty is chasing you, that's a good place to be.
Well, especially when you've got Jimmy Daw and Alex Whitaker running, you got those two big guys in the backfield. If you get the lead, you're just going to see a lot of running the football for the Medina Bees. Our Tim Bielik is at this game and has this preview. Take it away, Tim.
This is Tim Bielik from cleveland.com and the Friday Night Huddle. I'm coming to you tonight from Arlen Field in Mansfield, Ohio, where the second round of the playoffs is underway tonight. It's a Division I Region II semifinal tonight as the number 5 Bees face the number 1 Olentangy Liberty Patriots. Medina comes into this game having won just their second playoff game in school history a week ago, and they had to overcome a 24-point deficit to defeat Toledo Whitmer 38-31. The key for the Bees is that big backfield of quarterback Alex Whitaker, who weighs just about 235 pounds, and senior running back Jimmy Daw, who weighs just more than 220. For the 11-0 Patriots, they had a close call against rival Olentangy Orange in the first round, but good news for the Patriots, they have Brendan White back. The Ohio State commit is healthy. He's a do-it-all player, outstanding athlete, and he could be a game changer, no doubt, for the Patriots as they try and go to 12-0. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Bielik_Tim, as well as the hashtag Friday Huddle for more highlights and updates throughout this game.
Tim brings up a great point. That come from behind win also has to have the Bees feeling pretty good. Another game in that region is the Dublin-Jerome and Lorraine. Is Dublin-Jerome 10-1, Lorraine 9-2. Our Matt Gould has a preview of this matchup. Take it away, Matt.
Down to Mansfield Madison's Star Tech Stadium here, where we have a Division I Region II semifinal between the 9-2 Lorraine Titans and the 10-1 Dublin-Jerome Celtics. The winner of this game will face either Olentangy Liberty, the top seed, or Medina, the Badland Bees, who are playing in the other regional semifinal tonight. Looking at this one, I think it's going to come down to Lorraine's defense. Deshaun Brooks, the talented cornerback, matching up against Ty Montgomery, receiver for Dublin-Jerome, who has more than 1,200 yards receiving. They also have a 2,000-yard passing senior quarterback in Joe Dunnan. So let's see if Brooks and the secondary from Lorraine can slow them down, as they have to so many other teams. If you've been following us on cleveland.com this season, I've mentioned it a few times, Brooks has had some pretty impressive games, holding Jalen Harris at Cleveland Heights, probably the number 1 receiver in the state for the senior class. Held him to 1 reception back in week 10. He also shut down Javante Richardson of Maple Heights, who is going to Kentucky. So Brooks has developed quite the following this year, quite the ability as a cornerback. It's actually his first full season as a cornerback. He played football for the first time last season, was a basketball player. They played him at receiver, moved him, tried him a little bit at quarterback this year, and he's taken off. He's getting D1 looks from Mid-American Conference schools and some small Big Ten schools like your Purdue's, your Indiana, schools like that. So we'll see if he and that defense can slow them down. They also have a talented running back who plays safety in Carlos Chavis. So that's the matchup to watch. Dublin-Jerome's passing game. Can Lorraine slow it down like they have to so many other teams this season?
All right, we'll check in with Matt throughout the night. It's an interesting matchup, and when you talk about Jalen Harris and Javante Richardson, those are 2 big, tall, physical wide receivers that Lorraine, their DB, is shut down. That's a heck of a job.
Yeah, and those are the toughest ones to stop, really, because they just cause so many problems, not just their skill, but it comes down to their size, right? They're just bigger than you, maybe they're a little stronger than you. So to have the ability to shut those guys down and help your team win games from the cornerback position, that's impressive. And Lorraine, what a story. Probably one of the best stories in Northeast Ohio. A great win last week. They were trailing at halftime. They ended up winning the game. First playoff win, I believe, in school history. Yeah. Just an incredible story of the Titans.
And, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
We've talked a lot about Aurora and their history and how they got past Solon, losing the first game and then have just ripped off 10 wins in a row. I mean, that's essentially, Lorraine has done something along the same lines. They lost to Midview in a very close game, who was 9-1 during the regular season, and then lost their rivalry game to Elyria, natural grass field. Anything can happen there. And I guess that's true for both of those schools. But then to go ahead and win 8 in a row to close out the regular season, win their first round playoff game, I mean, that really says something about the Titans. And it's how they've done it, too. I mean, they, like you said, shutting down those receivers. And, even against Bedford, who fell off toward the end of the season, but didn't they had they forced five turnovers.
Yep.
Against Bedford. And so, yeah, I mean, Lorain, look out for Lorain.
Well, you know what? It kind of speaks to they were tested early. You play those teams early. Even though you lose to them, Midview, real good program, they know it teaches you that your margin for error is very small. And losing those games early tells you what you got to work on. And they clearly, the Titans got the message.
Yeah, sometimes you have to lose, right? Sometimes you have to kind of figure out what you need to get better at, or maybe how to cover up some mistakes here and there. And sometimes you can only learn that through losing, and certainly that's what's happened for Lorain.
And I wonder a little bit, well, not a little bit, I wonder quite a bit. We both talked about Medina having seen Mentor and Solon, and so who else could they possibly see that throws anything different at them? But is there a Solon or Mentor type team in this region? Is it Dublin Jerome, who Lorain is playing tonight, or is it Medina's opponent, Olentangy Liberty? Are either of those similar, or will both Lorain and Medina, because of the Division I, Region I schools that they've played, are they perhaps two of the best equipped teams in their region because of the level of competition they've seen throughout the regular season?
Be an interesting storyline. Well, we're going to head back to my upside-down region as the 8th seed, Avon Lake. They pulled off the upset, beating previously unbeaten and number 1 ranked Avon in the first round of the playoffs, and they will play a team from the Toledo area, White House Anthony Lane. Our Mike Fitzpatrick has a preview of this one. Take it away, Mike.
You are looking live at the Avon Lake Shoremen as they get ready for their playoff battle against Anthony Wayne. Avon Lake is 8-3. Anthony Wayne also 8-3. Avon Lake the 8th seed, Anthony Wayne the 4th seed. Avon Lake led by their outstanding senior quarterback Mark Kappas, who's thrown for more than 3,000 yards and 32 touchdowns. His favorite target is receiver Carson Toy, who has 1,200 yards receiving and 14 touchdowns. Anthony Wayne, a bit more of a running team. They're led by their outstanding all-around offensive performer Evan Brown, who's rushed for 1,245 yards and 16 touchdowns. And he has thrown for 505 yards and 6 touchdowns. A pair of 8-3 teams. Mike Fitzpatrick, cleveland.com reporting.
Well, there you have it. As the 8th seed, the Avon Lake Shoremen tried to continue their playoff run after they beat the Avon Eagles, number 1 ranked team in Division II. They take on White House Anthony Wayne. We're a few minutes away from kickoff. We're going to step aside and take a quick timeout as we get the regional semifinal action underway here in week 12 of high school football all across the state of Ohio. They're getting ready to kick it off at Nordonia's Bolin Stadium. It's Hudson and Aurora. A live look-in as the Greenmen, the top-ranked team in that region, will take on the 4th-ranked Hudson Explorers. We'll be right back on the Friday Night Huddle. Don't go anywhere.
Just as athletes need proper sleep for optimum performance, so do fans. To be your best, you need your rest on a properly fitted mattress from Mattress Warehouse. A good night's sleep on the right mattress prepares you for whatever the day throws at you. Visit Mattress Warehouse for a custom sleep assessment, and we'll help you find the right mattress for a great night's sleep and a productive day. Sleep like a champion, play like a champion with the perfect mattress from Mattress Warehouse.
The best thing Tri-C did for me was give me opportunities. The workforce program prepared me for the career I have now. I got a job in the aerospace industry where I work on CNC machines. I have 3 younger brothers. I want to teach my brothers, hard work actually pays off. Come to Tri-C. It's a great stepping stone to wherever you're trying to get to in life. My name is Chris Grooms, and I got my start at Tri-C.
Saturdays, after the big game, Time Warner Cable Sports Channel is Ohio's destination for all things college football. Join Les Levine and Anthony Lima as they break down all the day's action. Listen in live on Coach Urban Meyer's news conference and take your calls on the road ahead for the Scarlet and Gray. More sports and Les Levine postgame. Saturdays after the game on Time Warner Cable, Sports Channel.
I'm Stipe Miocic, World Heavyweight Champion for Nature Stone, and Cleveland's first hometown champ. Fighting can be brutal, so can mold, mildew, or flooding on your basement carpet or tile. Get Nature Stone and never replace your basement flooring again.
Hurry, act now. Get Nature Stone and save up to 50%. That's up to 50% off authentic Nature Stone flooring.
Nature Stone, like me, simply the best.
Act now. Call or visit naturestone.com today.
Football fans, huddle up. Friday nights are about to change forever with Friday Night Huddle. From pregame to postgame and everything in between, Friday Night Huddle is the place for Ohio football action. Combining the resources of cleveland.com, Classic Teleproductions, and Time Warner Cable Sports Channel, Friday Night Huddle gives you unprecedented coverage. You can be part of the action. Get updates as they happen. On cable, online, and on point. Friday Night Huddle. Dominion East Ohio is proud to salute young people in our area who work toward their goals both in the classroom and on the field. We're proud to serve our community and are committed to making a difference. Each year, Dominion partners with schools throughout the region and the entire country to develop new programs aimed at strengthening math and science education in our schools from kindergarten through high school. For more information about our programs, services, and community involvement, www.dom.com. Dominion, it all starts here.
The Ohio Lottery's Partners in Education program has been recognizing students and teachers who shine both in and out of the classroom since 2007. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com and click on Supporting Education. Students in kindergarten through 12th grade are eligible to be academic all-stars. K through 12 teachers can be honored as the Teacher of the Month. Every school that participates is eligible to be honored as the School of the Year. The Ohio Lottery's Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Tuesday nights are for Ohio college football. And now, Time Warner Cable Sports Channel is teaming up with your favorite site where Ohio State fans gather, 11 Warriors. Join Marissa Cottapelli and the pros who know the team best as they preview the week ahead. 11 Warriors Report, Tuesday nights at 7, only on Time Warner Cable Sports Channel.
Welcome back inside the Friday Night Huddle. I'm Dave Bacon, joined by Dan Labbe, Dave Skoczen. Guys, let's talk a little bit about Avon Lake. What a job, you know. They got handled pretty easily by Avon during the regular season. They come back and they beat them in the playoffs.
And they had gotten handled easily by Avon 4 times in a row. I mean, going back to 2012 was the last time that they had actually beaten Avon. We're talking about the Avon Lake Shoremen. But it was a lopsided loss after lopsided loss. But again, that game always happens early in the season. So we saw Avon Lake progress throughout the year. We saw them fall behind last week, have to come from behind, a heroic interception to hold on to the victory with 30 seconds to go. I mean, the Shoremen, it's, you know, I hate to go back to it again, but we already talked about Aurora. Had their loss early. Lorraine lost their 2 games early. You got to feel that Avon Lake has a little bit of that working also, where they just continue to improve throughout the season, and right now it's paying off.
And they got the memo, too, that in their conference now you sling the ball around. That's what you do. And you've got Mark Pappas at quarterback, Carson Toy, such a good target at wide receiver, and they've just transformed the way that they play, and they benefited from that last week.
Well, you see teams putting up 50 on the scoreboard. You better start throwing the football because, you know, not only do you have Midview, you've got Avon, and, I mean, let's be honest, you better be able to outscore those teams because nobody's going to stop them. You end up beating them by outscoring them.
And so much of your schedule, too, is your conference schedule when you're in the Southwest Conference. You know, it's like 9 games long. You play 1 non-conference game, and then you've got to play all these teams that just score a ton of points, and Avon Lake had fallen behind. And so it's good for them to see them kind of modernize their offense a little bit and catch up with the likes of Avon.
And it's funny that you say you're not going to stop them, but that's exactly how Avon Lake was. I mean, holding Avon to 26 points is an accomplishment in
Holding.
itself. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's kind of funny. We're laughing about it. They only scored 26.
Yeah, sometimes it's not about getting stop after stop after stop.
It's
about getting that one stop here or there to kind of turn a game.
Let's move to Division II, Region 5. We talked a little bit about the Aurora-Hudson game. The other game in that region, very interesting. You have an unbeaten Chardon team, 11-0, and they've just been rolling through everybody. And they face Warren Harding. Harding one loss. That was to Mooney by a single point. So that very intriguing matchup. And you've got some big-name guys in this game as well.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with Lynn Bowden, the 4-star athlete. Michigan State, Kentucky, Penn State. Those are just a few of the schools that are looking at this guy. So he's really the guy to look at. And last week, 201 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns, threw for a touchdown. Oh, and he returned a kick for a touchdown too. So he can score any way you want him to score.
And Bowden is a guy that plays quarterback, and people in that part of the state, the Warren, Youngstown area, they're convinced this guy should be Mr. Football. He's that good, that type of athlete, has that kind of numbers. You flip it over, and that wing T offense for Chardon, I'm very interested to see how Warren Harding handles that. Now, Beninati's really good at running that, has done it for a number of years. His brother ran it before him. It usually penalizes athletes that want to get in there and be heroes and make good plays. That is what this offense penalizes. And so what it forces a defense to do, play your assignments, don't go crazy, do what you're supposed to do. In Bill Belichick's words, do your job.
And we talked about it a little bit last week with the wing T, that it's hard to prepare for it because you would say, well, why doesn't everybody run the wing T if it's so hard to defend? Well, Chardon has the athletes to do it. I mean, that's the key to the whole thing, is they've got the personnel. So to prepare for that on a singular week basis is a lot tougher. Warren Harding, they put up a lot of points. I think this is a real test for Chardon. I mean, we're going to see a couple of offensive-minded programs, and Chardon, as you said, Dave, I mean, they have been blowing everybody out all season long. Now let's see what happens when you've got a team whose only loss is by 1 point in a high-scoring game to a very good Mooney team. What is going to happen when these two get together?
And Mooney's a team that runs the football a little different. They're just going to line up and bludgeon you as opposed to misdirection you and find out where the ball is and here's the ball, no, there's the ball. Well, we have our first update of the night, our first highlight of the night, Division I, Region 2. Dublin-Jerome taking on the Lorraine Titans and the Celtics from Dublin-Jerome. Deep in Lorraine territory, and it's Joe Dunnan with the pass, and it's complete to Ray Proco, and 24 yards for the touchdown, and the Celtics break on top with the early lead. But Lorraine has certainly come from behind before, 7-0, Dublin-Jerome with the early lead.
Yeah, Joe Dunnan last week only completed 10 passes, 251 yards, though, on those 10 passes, 10 of 19. So he can complete passes in big chunks.
Efficient. We call that efficient.
And to your point, Lorraine's been in that spot before. Give up an early touchdown. They seem to be a very well-seasoned team at this point of the year. So, obviously plenty of time to go there.
The other thing we didn't mention about Lorraine, backup quarterback comes in, and really that's when things start taking off for the Titans.
Yeah, it's always interesting to kind of see how a team responds when you go to that next field general, and that's what Lorraine has been able to do. And I think it speaks to the talent around that quarterback as well. There's a lot of guys, starting with Carlos Chavis, who's been so good for them, and Naz Bohannon, who, of course, is an excellent basketball player, and he's sort of been a Swiss Army knife for that team as well. So it really just speaks to the talent around them as well.
Well, we're going to stay in Division I, Region 2. The other side of that bracket, trying to get in and get the early lead, it's Olentangy Liberty taking on the Medina Bees and Olentangy Liberty, and it's Brennan White with the touchdown reception. DB fighting for the ball, but White comes up with it. And Olentangy Liberty breaks on top and takes the early 7-0 lead on Medina. So, again, Medina, obviously, the way that offense is structured, you don't want to fall too far behind because you want to be able to run the football and pound the football.
But they might be one of those teams where that doesn't really matter.
No, it doesn't.
As explosive as Medina can be on offense, I mean, maybe you just run the plays a little bit more quickly if you really need to. But again, we saw them fall way behind last week over in Toledo against Whitmer, come back in the second half, and they were able to win. But yeah, I think falling behind, you don't want to fall behind by 28, 7 or 14. Just keep pace with it if you're Medina.
Get your big backs going. Well, we're going to stay in Division I. We're going to go Division I, Region I, the Northeast Ohio region. St. Ignatius taking on the Solon Comets and the Wildcats. Moving the football. They're in Solon territory at about the 24-yard line. And it's the quarterback, Patrick Ryan, breaks breaks 2 tackles. Patrick Ryan, 24-yard touchdown run. And the Wildcats break on top at Mentor's Jerome T. Osborne Stadium, 7-0. And if you're playing the St. Ignatius Wildcats, you better tackle pretty well. And you saw Ryan broke a couple of tackles, broke contained, got into the end zone.
Well, and we talked about before this game started the size of the St. Ignatius offensive line, and that wasn't the issue there. I mean, it wasn't about blocking in the line or anything like that. It was getting into the secondary and the ability to break tackles, or maybe from Solon's standpoint, the inability to make the tackle. So you're exactly right. I mean, once he gets around that line, you've got to stop him. You can't give up points that way if you're Solon.
Tackle, 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 because that line is going to push you back anyway. We're going to stay in Division I, Region I, the other half of that bracket. It's the Stowe Bulldogs taking on the St. Edward Eagles. This one, a rematch of the state semifinal game from a year ago. And the Eagles moving the football on their early possessions. Curtis Zalesta, first and goal from the 9. He breaks a couple tackles. And Zalesta gets into the end zone to give the Eagles the early 7-0 lead on the Stowe Bulldogs. So both the the 4th seed and the 2nd seed, the Eagles and the Wildcats, leading 7-0 in the early going.
Yeah, and let's see how Stowe responds, right? We talked about they want to show they belong on that football field with St. Edward. All right, well, now you're trailing. You just got beat on a run play, right? I mean, that's when a team is coming right at you. They're pounding you, big run play. So how do you respond if you're Stowe? Do you respond like you did last year, kind of go in the tank a little bit, or do you come back down the field, put together a good drive, and try to get points on the board?
Yeah, I mean, right now, for both Stowe and Solon, the one thing you don't want is don't let it snowball.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Slow it down, pick up a couple first downs, and still do what you do, but slow the game down. Again, don't worry about who you're playing. You're here for a reason. Slow the game down.
Yeah. And to your point, I mean, that's how Stowe and Solon played against each other. It was 13-10. Stowe won that matchup a few weeks ago. But, you're absolutely right. If this turns into a 21-3 game, 28-7 before halftime, I think it's trouble for either Stowe or Solon if they're on the short end of that.
Well, let's head back. We've got another update. It's the Stowe and St. Ed's football game. Is the Bulldogs trying to rally. There's the offense. Van Treese, it's tipped. It's ruled a backward lateral, and Jacob Davis recovers it in the end zone. Great individual effort by Jacob Davis. Deflected it. It went backward. It's ruled a lateral because it's behind the line of scrimmage, going backwards. And it's now a 14-0 St. Edward's lead. Not what you wanted if you were the Stowe Bulldog. Exactly.
And the thing is, too, it didn't come off maybe you put together 5 or 6 plays and had to punt and St. Ed went down. You made a mistake. You got a ball tipped at the line. A defender made a nice play. And all of a sudden, it starts to feel like last year again. Even though the players are different, even though the team is different, it starts to feel like last year. Maybe you start to press a little bit. So Mark Norrie needs to kind of get his guys together and say it's still early. It's only a 2-score game. Just don't don't hurt yourself like you did on that play.
And credit St. Ed's for making it feel like last year. And we talked about the 9 players that they lost and went on to play Division I college football, and just that they haven't been quite the same this year. Still with that mentality, hey, these aren't the state champs anymore that we ran into in the playoffs last season. But St. Ed's coming out early and regaining that mental edge, I mean, that's huge. And as you said before we saw that last highlight, Dan, again, how will Stowe respond?
Yeah, now you've got a little bit bigger hole. But again, slow the game down. Don't get crazy. You can't score 14 points on any play. So pick up some first downs and do what you do.
How much is St. Ed's thinking about trying to get back to St. Ignatius next week?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, think about, I know it's the first quarter and they both have a lead, but you know that's been drilled into the minds of the Eagles is, hey, St. Ignatius could be there waiting for us next week. You saw what they did to you at First Energy Stadium 2 weeks ago. Let's go out, put this game away, and start looking at St. Ignatius.
But the danger in that is this Stowe team can strike pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Van Treese has a big arm. He's got a number of big receivers, Logan Lindsay, Andrazi, Jared Wright. I mean, those are guys that can get open and they can get by the Eagles as well. So if you're Stowe, slow the game down.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, they can score in bunches. There's been so many games this year where, different situation, but they've jumped out to 20-point leads, running clocks really quickly in games. So this is a team that if that offense can get going, and again, you just got to say, all right, we made a mistake on that play. That's on us. We can fix that. So you go out and fix it and then try and get that offense rolling.
It does make you wonder a little bit about, and I know it was one play that we saw, but what about going downfield? Why are you throwing a screen? If you got these weapons, you can come back so quickly and strike down the field. Is it the wind? Is it the way that St. Ed's is scheming defensively that it's just a look that maybe they're not comfortable with coming right back to try and make something happen that way?
And, you try to get out on the perimeter and see what you can do. You try to get your guys with some speed and some space. Let's head back to Division I, Region 2. The Lorraine Titans trying to answer as Dublin Jerome had a 7-0 lead. Titans move the ball downfield, and they give the ball to Aaron Huff. Oh, look at the hole. Aaron Huff hit it the one, but he gets into the end zone. Point after, no good though, as Dublin Jerome now leading Lorraine 7-6. So the Titans don't let it snowball. They answer with a nice drive, put some points on the board.
That's never good for your defense if the first time a guy gets touched is when he's at the goal line. You got to do a little better than that against the run, but you credit the offensive line there as well.
Yeah. Opening some holes. I'd like to run through that hole.
Yeah, exactly. I think I could maybe gain 2 or 3 yards off of that.
So Lorraine answers pretty nicely, now 7-6 in that Division I, Region 2 matchup. We had mentioned it. Real nice story. Lorraine lost twice early. They know what they do well, and they're responding now with Dublin Jerome taking that early lead.
They do, and it's funny when we heard they missed the extra point, the first thing that went through my mind was, so what? That's a very Lorraine sort of thing to do. I mean, and Solon at times, I know, for example, they'll go out and go for 2. A lot of times their first touchdown, it's 8-0 Comets. Lorraine always seems to have that odd score, whether it's 20 to something or 25 to something. So they missed the extra point. It almost puts me in the mindset that they're playing the Lorraine brand of football in an odd sort of way.
Well, you can be sure they'll be going for 2 the next time they find the end zone, and that big offensive line that opened up the holes will be called on.
And somewhere
again.
Chris Fedor is going to be saying, "Don't chase the points."
He's still trying to figure out how to reconfigure the Federal League to get the better seating there. The interesting thing with Stowe now is the thing that you have to guard against is the doubt creeping into your mind because of what happened a year ago. I mean, that's if you're Tom Lombardo and the Eagles, you couldn't have scripted it any better. Let's get on the board. Then our defense comes up with a big play, and all of a sudden, the Bulldogs are looking at the scoreboard, and it's like, we're down 14 already.
Yeah, and I guess it comes down to what sort of team do you believe you are? Do you believe you belong on the same field as St. Edward? We kind of touched on that already. Do you believe that you belong? Not just do you believe that you belong on that field? do you believe that you're the best team in Region 1? If you don't, you look at that 14-0 deficit and you say, oh, okay, great season, guys. You know, we did the best we could. Or you come back, you try and get that matchup next week with St. Ignatius or Seoul, and you know, if you believe you're the best team in the region, you can come back from this. So we'll kind of see what Stowe thinks of themselves.
Yeah, no question about it. Well, we had mentioned we have a matchup of unbeatens in the Division 4 Region 13 regional semifinal. 11-0 Perry taking on 11-0 Woodridge. Mike Patika joins us via the phone to give us an update. Mike, what's going on with Perry and Woodridge?
Well, with a couple minutes left in the first quarter, Woodridge has a 13-0 lead. They were stopped on their first possession, but in their last two possessions, their dynamic passing attack has really come to the forefront, with Mason Leidig completing his last 5 passes for 109 yards. One of them was an 18-yard touchdown to Jacob Margraf. The other 4 completions were for 91 total yards to Sharif Howard. And a couple of those catches set up a 9-yard touchdown run by Jacob Singletary.
And hey, Mike, what about the Woodridge defense?
Well, right now, Perry has the ball for the 3rd time, and they do not yet have a first down. I'm sorry, actually they have 1 first down and 3 possessions. They're out at their own 39 right now, but of course Perry's averaged 51 points a game the last 8 games, and looks like it might be a little more difficult tonight.
You impressed with what you're seeing from Woodridge so far? Just you know, that you mentioned that passing attack, but you combine that with the defense. It looks like they have the ability maybe to take control of this a little bit earlier than some people thought.
Well, it looks like the tone of that game may be headed that way, but of course Perry has some big playmakers. But certainly right now you'd rather be in Woodridge's position, because they've managed to, you know, show a passing attack that I don't know if Perry is going to be able to handle consistently. And Woodridge also hasn't been able to run the ball very well yet, and you know that'll probably assert itself with King Alfred Sanders.
Mike Patika, we appreciate the update. Once again, Woodridge out to a 13-0 lead on Perry in a battle of 11-0 teams in the Division 4 Region 13 regional semifinal. Well, the Stowe Bulldogs trying to cut into that 14-point lead that the St. Edward Eagles have built up early in this one. And we told you, Bulldogs have some pieces, parts that can put some points on the board. Kyle Van Treese, strong-arm quarterback, goes up top. That's Jared Wright. Nice adjustment to the football. Van Treese to right to the end zone, and just like that, it's 14-7. So, in answer to your question, yeah, we think we're pretty good if we're Stowe Bulldogs.
And you know, that was a one-on-one matchup too, which you like to see, because those were matchups they didn't win last year. Again, when St. Edward had so many college players basically on their roster, so that's got to be a big confidence booster for Stowe, because part of their passing game is those one-on-one matchups. I'm going to throw the ball up to you, you go get it. Well, they just got one. So I think that's important for Stowe to see that can work tonight.
Game changer. I could feel it in you two. We were sitting here thinking, wow, St. Ed's is going to walk away with this thing. But to see that come back, how many yards is that, 37?
36, 37.
They were out there somewhere. I mean, to come back and throw that pass that was delivered the way that it was, and answer after a bad play, after a turnover, and get right back into the game. I mean, changes everything.
Well, and Stowe does have some big-bodied wide receivers, Logan Lindsay, Jared Wright, and Joe Andresi. They can go and get the ball, and make no mistake about it, Van Treese is one of the best quarterbacks in Ohio. He's headed to Buffalo. He's a D1 guy. He's got the arm to make all the throws. So there it is, 14-7. Let's head back to the phone. Daniel Sheriff joins us with an update on the Cuyahoga Heights St. Thomas Aquinas game. Daniel, what's going on with the Knights and the Redskins?
Well, your timing's pretty good. Redskins just scored another touchdown, so they now lead on 13-0. The point after was no good, but so far it's been the Redskins all the way through. They've dominated the time of possession. St. Thomas Aquinas went 3 and out on their only possession so far, and right now the Knights have to put a drive together quickly because it looks like Cuyahoga Heights might just run away with this thing.
Cuyahoga Heights 11-0 on the year. St. Thomas Aquinas is 9-2. When you look at it, has it been the typical running of Cuyahoga Heights that has done it, long drives or big plays?
Both, absolutely. Long drives. They had 6 minutes of their opening drive, and they had some great big plays on their second drive to negate some early penalties that could have really pushed the momentum back towards St. Thomas Aquinas.
And it sounds like Cuyahoga Heights' defense has been as good as advertised as well with St. Thomas Aquinas in the early going. Accurate?
Well, it's early. St. Thomas Aquinas only had 1 possession. It was a 3 and out. We'll have to see how the Knights respond on their second drive. Get anything going against the defense.
Daniel Sheriff with an update of Cuyahoga Heights and St. Thomas Aquinas. We appreciate it very much. 13-0, Cuyahoga Heights leading.
That's impressive. St. Thomas Aquinas, their 2 losses were to very good teams. They lost to Marlington, they lost to Warren JFK, and they weren't blowouts. They're the only team that beat Crestwood, Manaway Crestwood, going into the playoffs. So for Cuyahoga Heights to come out and continue doing what they're doing, and you know, it was a little bit of a trip to go down to Akron, something that maybe they're not entirely accustomed with. Very impressive for the Redskins to come out and take that lead in the second quarter.
And you mentioned Marlington. That they lost, but they were the top seed in Division III, and that's the region with Hoban and St. Vincent St. Mary. Marlington, unbeaten, was the #1 seed in that region. They lost to Akron East last week, but that'll tell you how good that Marlington team is.
Yeah, and for Cuyahoga Heights, you know they're thinking about Kirkland in the back of their mind. So, if they can get a nice little lead, and you mentioned it with St. Edward, right? If you can get out to a nice little lead, you can start looking ahead maybe a little bit. I'm sure Cuyahoga Heights wouldn't mind getting out to a good lead here, putting some guys on the bench, and maybe looking ahead to a possible rematch.
And even aside from that, I mean, he said that their St. Thomas Aquinas has 1 first down, and they're in the second quarter. I mean, this is, but to be down 13-0 in a game like that against Cuyahoga Heights, I mean, Cuyahoga Heights is grind it out. What was the Kirtland score? 21-0. 21-0. So this is exactly the type of game that Cuyahoga Heights wanted to play, and frankly, the type of game that the Knights did not want to be involved in.
Well, we told you that Olentangy Liberty, Division I, Region 2, had a 7-0 lead on Medina, and the Patriots driving again, looking for more as their offense moving the ball down. It's Mitchell O'Cooley right over the middle, and he finds Drew Rossi for the touchdown. O'Cooley's second touchdown pass of the night. It's now 14-0. Olentangy Liberty breaking on top as the top seed in Division I Region 2, leading Medina 14-0.
It's okay.
Bees
it's okay for Medina.
They're just getting comfortable.
Well, I mean, really, how many times did we almost write them off last week?
Right?
I mean, I was sitting in that chair, and Chris Fedor was here. You were there, and he kept looking up the scores, and oh my gosh, Medina's so far behind. So, in a sense, let's see how far what happened last week can carry the Bees this week.
And if you're Liberty, that's a great start. You obviously want to get ahead and play from in front. The further you go against better competition, you get out to the early lead and make them chase points.
Yeah, and if anybody can chase points, though, it's Medina with that offense and that quick strike with Jimmy Daw, Dylan Foltz. Doesn't matter who's playing quarterback, it seems, for them. If anybody can chase, it's Medina.
Well, let's head to the phone. Bill Mayville is out at the Hudson-Aurora game. He joins us via the telephone. Bill, what's going on with the Explorers and the Greenmen?
Hey, guys, we've reached the end of the first quarter, and we are still scoreless here at Bowling Stadium.
When you look at it, anybody close, or has it been kind of the typical defense dominating?
For the most part, it's been typically defense. Both teams have recorded a couple of sacks. Hudson, on their opening drive, made it pretty deep into Aurora territory before the drive stalled out at the 26. They attempted a 43-yard field goal, but without the regular kicker, the field goal fell no good. So that was the closest we've come to having anything on the scoreboard.
All right. Bill Mayville, we appreciate it. He alludes to the fact that Hudson's kicker, Grant Gagne, injured last week on a kickoff So he is not going to be around for the rest of the playoffs, and he's one of the best kickers in the area as well.
And how many close games have we seen Hudson involved in this year where, something like that would come in handy? Although when Gagne, he came in, I believe, as a freshman against Brunswick, and he came in due to another player having to go out, and came in and I think kicked a 45-yard field goal his first attempt as a freshman kicker at the varsity level. I will say it seems like being scoreless through one quarter is probably a good thing for Hudson more so than it is for Aurora. The Greenmen put up all kinds of points. They have so many ways that they can beat you, and we talked about that before that game got underway. But to see that they're going to the second, neither team has scored, I think you got to say that that's a victory in itself for the Explorers.
Yeah, I think a low-scoring game probably favors Hudson in that one, without question. Well, time to check in on the upside-down region. That would be Division II, Region 6, where three of the four lower seeds advanced. We're going to check in with Westlake, the 7th seed, taking on the 6th seed, Olmsted Falls. A 97-yard drive for the Bulldogs, and it's Spencer Linville carrying it the final 8 yards into the end zone, bulls his way in, and it's a 7-0 lead for Olmsted Falls in the second quarter.
Lorraine Morning Journal had a story about Spencer Linville. His pregame meal, weekly tradition, consists of a McDouble, McChicken, some fries, and, if he's feeling it, a milkshake. That's a pregame meal.
I've done that before without the milkshake. You go down the dollar menu, but Olmsted Falls, Westlake, again, one of those teams where we obviously know they're not out of it, but I think, are either the two of you surprised that it's only 7-0 in the second quarter with those two teams?
A little bit.
I mean, it seems like Westlake scores quite a few points more often than not. I was surprised that it was only a one-touchdown game that deep.
The one thing I would think that Olmsted Falls wants to do, in the context that it was a 97-yard drive, if you're Olmsted Falls, you want to run the football, eat at the clock, keep the offense that has, the big-time passing connection and the big-time playmaking thing, keep them on the sidelines. Let's just run the ball, and let's line it up and run Linville and see if you can stop them.
That's the thing about Linville, too, last week, 229 yards, 0 negative plays. How often do you see that out of a running back?
If I'm the coach, I'm giving him the ball. Here, I'm giving you 30. You're going to get 30 next time.
Yeah.
Keep gaining yards.
I mean, it's just part of the running back job, right? You're going to have some plays where you lose a yard, lose 2 yards, whatever. You're going to get them back on average over the rest of the night. So for a guy to be such an important part of their offense, it gets a team like Midview that they can get after it a little bit in the backfield. No negative plays. That says something about the kind of runner he is, and it says something about that offensive line, too.
Yeah, and you know what? That's the game plan. Okay, high-powered offense. They like to throw the ball. Here, try to stop this guy. By the way, there's not much to tackle, and he doesn't lose yardage.
Yeah.
So it works. It's a really effective thing. As Spencer Linville's 8-yard touchdown run caps a 97-yard drive. How about that? Your offense. That'll give you a lot of confidence, not only as a coach, but as an offensive line and as Linville. Linville's going, okay, guys, let's keep doing this. Let's get back out there.
And it keeps Trey Villalobos and that Westlake offense off the field. The first time they played, it was 34-31. Westlake came out on top. That was the second game of the season. And Westlake, especially coming off of the way that they finished last year, winning down the stretch, started to turn a few heads at that point. But this might also be one of those games where, because of all the reasons that we just talked about, Olmsted Falls in their line and grinding it out, where a lower scoring game would probably favor the Bulldogs.
Yeah, if that's my game plan against any high-powered offense. If I've got a running back like that, and Linville, you touched on it in the preview. He's one of the better running backs in the area. Keep giving him the ball.
Yeah.
You know what? It's one of those things. You're going to get a good dose of number 33 until you show me you can stop him. And there haven't been too many teams that have been able to stop him.
And you saw it. That's not a guy who's going to get tired of taking hits. No. He's a guy that can take some hits, can deliver some punishment. He can handle a heavy workload.
And if I'm a DB, I'm thinking twice about coming up. I'm coming up, but I'm really not looking forward to the point of impact with Spencer Linville. So it's kind of interesting. And again, 7-0, and that's the 6 and the 7 seed. By the way, I love the fact that all those lower seeds came back and won in round 1 of the playoffs. Just a testament to how good some of those teams that were fighting to get into the playoffs were.
And it makes you think a little bit about, I mean, how, Avon, who we can go back to it again and again, but Avon Lake knocking off Avon last week. They're one of the higher seeds that went down. Olmsted Falls beating Midview, and their only loss was to Avon. But I think for several years now, we've just thought of Avon and Midview coming out of that region or in Lorain County, period. And now to see some of these other schools jump up and get some victories, I think it puts a really different perspective. Regardless of what happens from this point on in the playoffs, it changes how we're going to look at that area and that conference going into next year. Who is going to jump up and become the next Avon or the next Midview?
Well, they've raised the level, and now the rest of the conference is kind of catching up with them. We're going to step aside. Most of the games are in the second quarter, getting midway through it. We're going to take a timeout. We'll be right back on the Friday Night Huddle along with Dan Labbe and Dave Skoczen. I'm Dave Bacon. We'll be right back.
Before I decided to go back to Tri-C to become a nurse, I was a stay-at-home mom. Absolutely wanted to be a pediatric nurse. I love taking care of kids. If you're thinking about changing your career or changing your path, go to Cuyahoga Community College. I feel like I'm in a great place in my life. I have 3 great kids. I have a great job that I love. I could not have done it without Tri-C. My name is Diana Geary. I earned my nursing degree from Cuyahoga Community College.
Just as athletes need proper sleep for optimum performance, so do fans. To be your best, you need your rest on a properly fitted mattress from Mattress Warehouse. A good night's sleep on the right mattress prepares you for whatever the day throws at you. Visit Mattress Warehouse for a custom sleep assessment, and we'll help you find the right mattress for a great night's sleep and a productive day. Sleep like a champion, play like a champion with the perfect mattress from Mattress Warehouse.
Wednesday nights, more sports and Les Levine is live at 6. Then at 7, Access Crew SC. And at 7:30, High School Blitz Preview. It all starts Wednesday night at 6. Follow us on social media at TWC Sports OH. Across town and across the region, this is where fans belong. Time Warner Cable, SportsChannel.
The Emmy Award-winning High School Sports Insider features Ohio's best high school sports stories. For 17 years, the High School Sports Insider has been spotlighting role model students, outstanding athletes, and the Buckeye State's best teams. In-depth features from all sports, all school year long. For the best high school sports coverage, make sure you tune into the High School Sports Insider each and every week on Time Warner Cable Sports Channel.
As World Heavyweight Champion, Clevelander, and spokesman for Nature Stone, we'd like to present you with our own award.
Wow, it's awesome.
We had it